Look up and see through universe to your image in the here and now. I can hear the trees speaking songs of leaves whispering in the wind. Look down, roots grow and swell with the water from the ground. A golden ribbon unfurls and weaves us through a twining of time. Untwine and twine and twine and untwine. All the years combine. Some rise, some fall. Some rise, some fall. Some rise, some fall to get to Terrapin. John was beautiful like the setting sun. Untwine and twine and twine and untwine. All the years combine. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. Sit around your fire at night. Sit under the stars. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. This land is sacred, and this land is beautiful, and we are all of us in flesh or spirit made up of the same stuff. Love and light, desire and experience. Ascend, my love, not hot, not cold, not wet, not dry. Ascend, my love, from space to air, from air to fire, from fire to water, from water to earth. Ascend, my love. Sinew, bone, blood, tears, heat, energy, wind, breath, crystalline spheres. Untwine and twine and twine and untwine. Hey, tell me a John Mullins story, I asked. Okay, my friend said. One day, he said, Mullins was playing a gig with the great Johnny Neal, who had played with the Allman Brothers Band and co-wrote songs with Warren Haynes. And Neal was on stage, sitting behind his keyboard, and my friend said he looked like the Predator in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. The musicians backing him, including John, were a little nervous, and everyone wanted to do their best, but it wasn't easy. Neal just plays, and he wears dark glasses, and everyone else must keep up. And then the music going, and it was good, and the crowd was digging it. On set break, however, John was steaming as he came off the stage. It's impossible to play with Neal, he growled. He's changing all of his own songs on the fly. Untwine and twine and twine and untwine. Black boots, canyon mica, shimmer. Of course, vodka and smoke, mind too, rocking on the wind. Music played low. Still thoughts of the wheel, rutted road, my boys sitting around, campfires. Watch fireworked stars spill over the desert. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. Sit around your fire at night. Sit under the stars. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. John and Buddha from Glow Stick Willie were talking before the show and trying to decide which band would take the prime time slot. John said to Buddha, hey, let's flip for the headliner. Buddha said with a smile, no need to flip, John. You headline. You deserve it after all the years of work. John laughed and said with a smile, you pussy. Untwine and twine, twine and untwine, all the years combine. Hey, I'm gonna sidle down the trail, brother, and sleep it off in the snow. Brush my coat down and just keep going. You can judge a man by the company he keeps, and you can tell a lot by the boots on his feet. Now here's how you do it, and here's what I seen. The best way to do it is to cut 'em quick and clean. The best way to do it is to swing with both hands. Bushwhack 'em on the trail and take back the land. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. Sit around your fire at night. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. Smilin' Joe ran an open mic, and sometimes John would stop by unannounced and want to play. Whenever that would happen, Joe would throw away the sign-up sheet and let John play for as long as he wanted. On one night, after John had played for about 30 minutes, everyone had cheered, and they wouldn't let him leave the stage. There was an after party, and one of the girls from the open mic was there with her boyfriend. John had had a few drinks and he was smiling and chatting. The girl and her friend came up to him, and the girl started gushing. "Oh, John," she said, "that was the most amazing music, and your voice, and the songs," and she went on and on and on. As Joe watched her breathlessly flatter him, he knew that John was quickly running out of patience with her. And sure enough, after about 3 minutes of this, John's smile was gone, and he was looking at her without saying anything. Oblivious, she kept right on talking, and so John reached into his pocket and took out $2. He told her to hold out her hand, which she did, and he placed the $2 in her palm. Then he turned to her friend and said, "Now fuck off." Untwine and twine, twine and untwine, all the years combine. Oh, what do I have to do now, brother? Another time around the wheel. Oh, where can I fly now, sister? Another time around the wheel. The links in this chain still bind me tight. The night moves slow, the night moves fast. First watch has ended, and the second just begun. The night moves slow, the night moves fast. Weep silently with me, child, for I can find no peace. This race is only half run now, and I can find no peace. Step slowly with me, sister, for there is no place we can rest. This hill climbs on for miles now, and there is no place we can rest. I'll carry you on my back, brother. My legs still remain strong. On our father's land we will lay us down. My legs still remain strong. We'll wade in the rivers we bathed in when young, and clover honey will we sip. We'll anoint our children with scented oil, and clover honey will we sip. Look into my eyes, child. What you see is never gone. The footprints we now leave behind. What you see is never gone. The music we together create. What you see is never gone. The light that shines at midnight's break. What you see is never gone. Twine and untwine and twine and untwine. They melt into a dream. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. Sit around your fire at night. Sit under the stars. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. I asked Tom Blessing what was up, and he told me he was thinking about John. Tell me a Mullins story, I asked. I knew him so briefly. Tom said that in 2012, he went to California and hung out with David Gans from the Grateful Dead Hour, the musician David Gans. And Gans asked Tom about John, and Tom told him John was doing okay. He was hanging in there. Then Gans said, "Hey, Tom, I've got a funny Mullins story." And here it is. Gans said that years ago, he had played a show with Ekoostik Hookah, and everyone had stayed in a hotel room after the gig. That night, John woke up because he had to go to the bathroom. In his still buzzed state, he became disoriented as he walked around the room in the dark, and he wound up in the corner of the hotel room instead of the bathroom. There, he pissed on Gans' laptop computer, which was on the floor in the corner. Gans had awoken to the sound of trickling water, and when he looked across the room, there was John pissing on his laptop. A few years later, Tom said that Gans had swung through Ohio on tour and played a gig at the Living Room, which you might remember was Chubby's old place in Middleton. And Gans was staying at Tom's, and so after the gig, everyone, including John, wound up back at Tom's place, where there was laughter and music and good conversation. As things got late and people started to think about bed, John turns to Gans and says, "Hey, David, make sure to put your laptop away, okay? Untwine and twine, twine and untwine, all the years combine. Hey, does God look down on the boys in the barroom? Mainly forsaken, but surely not judged. Jacks, kings, and aces, their faces in wine. Do, Lord, deliver our kind. From singing for whiskey, 3 strings on a fiddle, 4 on the guitar, and a song that I love. Many's the night we spent picking and singing, in hopes it be pleasing both here and above. Jack string fiddle to my sawtooth bone. Who loves loneliness loves it alone. I love the dim lights that some love the dew. The only thing I wonder sometimes is, does God look down on the boys in the barroom, mainly forsaken, but surely not judged? Jacks, kings, and aces, their faces in wine. Do, Lord, deliver our kind. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. Sit around your fire at night. Sit under the stars. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. In July, Willietown happened here, and J. Mo from Glow Stick Willie woke up at about 3 p.m., covered in a dog blanket and ready to roll. He had been sleeping in the Glow Stick Willie bus back in one of the bunks, and now the festival was starting. As he stood up and started towards the front of the bus, he realized that the red plastic container of John's ashes that he had placed in the pocket of his jeans had opened up as he had turned over in his sleep. Mullet had given it to Jay direct from the memorial service, and now it had popped open. Jay reached into his pocket, and the ashes were spilled everywhere inside. He tried to scoop up some of the ashes with his hands out of the pocket and put them back in the jar, and he managed to get some of them back in. But there was no way to get all of the ashes back into the jar, and now his pants were dusted with them, and they were all over his hands, too. Jay set down the now half-full red container on the bus, wiped his shirt on his hands, thereby effectively covering himself head to toe with John. There was nothing he could do, so now Jay grabbed a swig of whiskey, lit a cigarette, and walked out of the bus into this very spot we now gather. For the next 8 hours, as he managed his Willietown Festival, J. Mo walked all over these very grounds, from stage to stage, up and down the hills, in and out of the tents and buildings, rode on the back of golf carts and trucks, and trailed behind him a small cloud of ashes with every step of his foot and every wave of his hand, and thereby managed to lovingly spread John over almost every piece of earth in this spot. The following day it rained hard. Under all the grass was now mud, and there was music and dancing, and then the grass and the mud and the ashes were all mixed together on the very land you now stand. And the mud was mixed with John, and it dried out, and the grass grew green and tender again, and the water from the rain mixed with the ashes and was soaked up by the trees, and new leaves on the trees shone green, and they in turn waved in the wind. Some of the water was soaked up by the plants, and some was soaked up by the air. John is all around us in this moment. He is in the grass, he is in the trees, in the air, and the water of the place. When we dance here, we dance with John too. Untwine and twine, twine and untwine, love and light, desire and experience. Ascend, my love, not hot, not cold, not wet, not dry. Ascend, my love, from space to air, from air to fire, from fire to water, from water to earth. Ascend, my love, sinew, bone, blood, tears, heat, energy, wind, breath, crystalline spheres. In the light of the stars, and in the light of the dreaming of the stars, our faces are reflected. Look up and see through universe into your image in the here and now. I can hear the trees speaking songs of leaves whispering in the wind. Look down, roots grow and swell with the water from the ground. A golden ribbon unfurls and weaves us through a twining of time. Some rise, some fall. Some rise, some fall to get to Terrapin. John was beautiful, like a setting sun. Untwine and twine and twine and untwine. All the years combined. Hookahville, tell your stories. We live through the stories. Sit around your fire at night. Sit under the stars. Tell your stories. We live through the stories. Thank you. Hey, raise your glasses to John Mullins one time, everybody.
Too, Johnny.
I'm I haven't settled lap yet. May settle lap later. It happens. Not guaranteeing anything.
He'd rather have John on his lap, but I guess you'll do.
I choose?
Check 1 2 1 2.
Thank